Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Some pretty surprising new details have surfaced in regards to what Call of Duty actually monitors on your account. Now, we've known for years and years and years, really well over a decade now, that skill-based matchmaking is in the game. So obviously, the game is taking into account your skill. If you've got a high KD, if you're dropping a ton of kills per match, if you're typically a sweaty player, you're gonna end up against sweatier players. In more recent years, there's also been the larger discussion of engagement optimized matchmaking, basically them monitoring all sorts of different things, at least presumably, in order to figure out what's going to keep players on the game the longest. Call of Duty really wants to go all in on retention and try and keep obviously as many players on their game for as long as possible. And a brand new video that TheXclusiveAce actually ended up posting a few hours ago details way more information than we've ever publicly had. We've always had various assumptions. Oh, they're probably tracking this, they're probably tracking that, but this video gives us much more detail into what Call of Duty is actually paying attention to. So I 100%, first off, got to give credit to Ace for actually discovering this. He said one of his viewers ended up finding this website and went through it and actually found what these details are. But in Ace's video, he goes into full detail about what all this means, what you can actually check and see, and how it pertains to your gameplay, in certain instances. So I'll leave a link to Ace's video down in the description below. Absolutely cannot recommend Ace's channel enough for fantastic info, really on a daily basis. I saw this pop in my sub feed and I was like, wait, no, there's no way this is real, right? But that said, he posted this video, how to see your hidden skill rating in Call of Duty. And basically in this video, he goes through and describes how there is a certain domain on Activision's website about privacy and data protection here that allows you to submit a request to have your data shown to you to see what all they are actually tracking. And what it shows you here, Ace does edit out some of it for privacy reasons, because they give you this tracked spreadsheet of all your data for a specific time period, right? I think it dates back to Vanguard or something. He said it's a lot of data you can get, and it shows you some pretty wild stuff. Now, there are some very personal things here, like your IP address and other things that Ace mentioned. So if you're trying to look at this with your friends and stuff or other people, you may want to cover up some of that stuff, but you can actually go through and view exactly what's going on in your matches and what data they are tracking. And what's shown here, I think, is particularly interesting just because of all the conversations regarding skill-based matchmaking and engagement optimized matchmaking and all these different theories of, are they tracking this? Will this factor into what kind of matches you're going to get? Is this going to be a factor and whatnot, right? So we can see all these various things at the top that they are looking into. So you got your timestamps for all the games here, the account type. So if you were playing on a PlayStation account, if you're playing on a Steam account, Xbox, Battle.net, whatever the case might be, right? The device you're playing on, which is obviously relevant to your account type there, the type of game you're playing, whether it's domination, TDM, search, whatever the case is there, the match ID for that, when the match takes place, what map it's on, what team you're on, what the match outcome was. And then you get into the more user-specific stuff. And this is what I find to be particularly interesting, the fact that they're tracking things like this. For instance, the operator that you're using, the operator skin that you're using, and even the execution that you have equipped as well. There's been a lot of different talk in the past of, oh, if you buy more store bundles, is that going to change your lobbies? There's been a lot of accusations of, oh, if you spend money, you'll get easier lobbies and things of that. I believe to this point, all the tests that I've ever seen don't really show any difference happening in terms of lobby skill or anything like that. Back when we had a public API where if you buy skins, your lobbies got easier, that never really seemed to correlate. But the fact that they're tracking this certainly, goes into that conversation. I think sort of feeds that narrative a little bit more of, oh, this is something they're actually paying attention to. So they see you're using the replacer operator, or you're using Kane as an operator, or a Stone, or whatever. If they see you're using one of the very basic operators every single game, they're gonna know that, and then potentially, they have a chance to market on your account. Maybe a store bundle is discounted at some point in time in the future, or one of the free items you get that seem to be random. Sometimes some players get double XP and other people get a free bundle that's a calling card or something. Like, maybe that could change down the road. They also detail exactly which operator skin though you're using for that operator. So if it's a base one, or maybe it's one you got from the campaign, or if it is a bundle one, and then of course your executions even as well, whether that's from a bundle or a battle pass or whatever, they have all of that data now tracked and logged for every single individual account. Now, that's sort of to be assumed. They're going to track a lot of things in game, and even more than what we might see on this. But we have, like I said, had all these conversations in the past of, oh, that's really interesting that these theories, come around and they surface in regards to, will this impact your matchmaking? Will that impact your matchmaking? And now we have actual proof that they are tracking things down to your execution that you have equipped. When Ace then shifts the graph over even more, you end up seeing other very interesting things that they track. One of them in particular being skill. And this is largely what Ace's video is about. And he talks about sort of how to quantify this if you can quantify it. Also ask for help if you want to contribute to what testing it seems like he's going to do, because this is kind of an arbitrary number as it stands. Like, we don't know what 362 skill means versus 393 versus something else, but there's clearly a skill rating that's being attributed to every single account during every single match, and we'll touch more on that here in just a moment. But again, another thing they're tracking. And then of course they're tracking more basic things that you can actually just track on your combat record, right? Like your score, your accuracy and whatnot, your assists, your longest streak, obviously your kills, your deaths, how many headshots you've gotten with stuff, some basic things like that, your executions. They also, though, Call of Duty directly for your account tracks how many times you might blow yourself up with something. And obviously this is a big talk when it comes to reverse boosting, because this was a thing for a long time. If you take a launcher or a Semtex and blow yourself up for 200 times in a row and you go 1 in 200 in a match, it's going to think you're a really terrible player. Then the next lobby you queue into, you might have just complete and utter bots on the other team because of skill-based matchmaking. That was a method like way back in the day. I don't think that stuff works anymore, but the fact that this is being tracked now probably is being factored into your matchmaking and factored into your account of, oh, they know in this match that you just happened to, shoot a rocket at your feet 172 times and you didn't actually fire any bullets that weren't just rockets, right? Like you died, let's say 172 times, you shot 172 rockets or something. They know that that's actually going on in game based on the data. Now, how much they're actually enforcing that or truly monitoring that when it comes to the systems, we might not ever know, because with their white papers that they've released so far in terms of matchmaking, it's pretty much just saying, hey, we're doing this, this, and this. And like, we know, we've been telling you, you've been doing that for, however long, right? But still, again, feeding into the narrative. There's also even more pretty strange things that are tracked here per account, which is kind of wild. You'll see some of this actually pertains to Warzone, it seems like. But damage done, obviously, that's another pretty basic one, damage taken. But then you also have armor collected, armor equipped, and armor destroyed. So that'll be more based around like Warzone gameplay, where there's always armor involved. You can see in Ace's multiplayer matches that he played, that wasn't a thing. So it's just zeros and goose eggs across the board, right? But still something they are tracking. So they know exactly how many pieces of armor you picked up in a match. Like super specific stuff like that is actually being tracked for every single game of Warzone you play, which really then just poses the question, how much of this is being used to factor into matchmaking? And I doubt we're ever going to see a transparent answer to that, because Call of Duty and transparency aren't necessarily something that's going hand in hand, especially right now. But again, feeding the narrative. You also have things like how many vehicles you used. Another very interesting one, percentage of time moving. Were you moving for 100% of the game here in some cases, or Ace was moving for 27%, where he might have been AFK for a match for a large portion of it? They know exactly how much time you spend running around the map in a given game. Could that then be factored into matchmaking, where they want you to be paired up with other players who are moving for, let's say, 60% and above per game? Or if you have a very campy play style and you move for 30% of a game and 30% of a game only, are you going to be matched up with other players who play a similar play style? Or will they try and balance it? If you only move for 30% of a game, but this player moves for 70%, what if we put them on the same team? Does that balance out their team a little bit? Interesting things to take note of. Does that factor into matchmaking? And then of course there's again more basic stuff here. They're going to track your total XP, all the XP you earn throughout challenges, from medals, bonus XP. So this is where double XP and whatnot would be applied across the board here. How much XP you're getting for your operator versus your weapon, which is actually largely different here per match, it seems like, which is kind of interesting to see as well. How much battle pass you're getting, what your level was at the start of that match versus what your level was at the end of that match as well. A lot of very detailed, very small things that are all, again, being logged for every single game you play. And if we go through, we can even see some lifetime things that were tracked here as well at the very end of this graph. Again, Ace did edit out some of his own information just for security reasons, but you can see all this information for yourself if you go through. Ace has instructions in his video as well. So again, please go and check that out. But they can see how many lifetime games you've played. So if you're a brand new account, this I feel like should be used in Ricochet. If your lifetime games played is 17 and your shots and your headshot accuracy is about perfect, clearly something weird is going on there, right? Like, that's stuff that would easily correlate to what would almost be an instantaneous shadow ban or permaban in some cases. Who knows if this is being used there? I'd have to imagine it is to a certain extent, but then even your lifetime win, losses, kills, and deaths even across the board. So there is so much data that is being tracked now on your Call of Duty account. And because of this site, like I said, again, Ace has full instructions on how to view this for yourself in his video. You can actually check this for yourself if you're interested, but it does feed into the fact that everything we're doing in Call of Duty, they are tracking in some capacity, right? So who knows how much of this is being used in, you know, figuring out which matches you need to be queued into and based on skill-based matchmaking or engagement optimized matchmaking. But it's a level of detail we haven't had up until right now. So definitely wanted to cover this, as this is actually pretty crazy news, all things considered. When I first saw this pop into my sub box, as I said, I was like, wait a second. What is this coming from, right? Like, this is pretty crazy stuff here. So that said, that is going to wrap things up. Go and check out Ace's video linked down below. If you enjoyed this one, a like is always seriously appreciated, of course. And if you're new to the channel, you want to help us get one step closer to hitting 1 million subscribers here, hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications. I got you guys covered with all the details you need to know for Call of Duty on a daily basis. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.